flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll begin this evening with our open forum. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and address the board at this time? Okay. Moving on to celebrating our community successes, John Double, and here with Lou Rich personnel.
Machinists, welders, anything that can help speed the program down the road, and ultimately come around and hopefully they'll be looking to work at Blue Ridge down the road. But we certainly had success with the youth apprenticeship program. We've had a number of them come back and then work at Blue Ridge after they've either gone through further schooling or some of them after school just came in and worked at our facility too. So it's worked out well for us and hope to build on that in the future. So I appreciate the partnership that we've developed with that.
And Steve, I believe there was just some information regarding the history of the company that starting in Hayward and now building from 2 owners in a small shop to over 400 employees. That's a fantastic story.
Yeah, 72 would have been when Louis Larson and Dick Acklin started the company, and you're right, it's expanded now to more than just Blue Ridge. It's Innovance, which is multiple companies actually combined, but Blue Ridge is still, we're about 300 employees at the Front Street and our Hayward facility also.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, I'd entertain motions to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor of the agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have our consent items. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent items signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to reports. I think last time we started with you, Neil, so we're going to start with you. Wait, yeah, excuse me, Mike. Mike first. All right.
the other piece of it, which goes with the app, is something for our students and our community and families and parents, and it's called Safe to Speak Up. And what that tool does, it allows people who, if they know some misbehavior is going on in school, or they hear there's going to be a fight, a threat to somebody, somebody's being picked on, they can anonymously report it through the app to the school that they go to, and or if they choose, they can go ahead and do it on the district website, and it's anonymous, and so we can start to get anonymous information from folks if they don't feel like giving their name to come forward, and then we can investigate things that way. So both of these features, I think, are going to be very beneficial to our school district in the long term. And so we met with we had a video conference a few weeks ago with the company, and then the cabinet all was shared some information with it last Thursday. But I think with what we're doing with Alice and with what we're doing with our bullying, and hearing from the community meetings that the community wants some sort of ability to communicate in an anonymous manner, I think these are both really timely things for the district. And that's pretty much my report tonight, subject to your questions.
Do subs have access to Crisis Go?
Yes, they would. Everybody who we can set it up so that every employee of the district can have access to it. Now, as far as a sub having a class list, if they're teaching for Mrs. Smith, 5th hour, I'd have to look into that piece of it. But they will be able to access the procedures that if something happens.
Okay, any other further questions? Moving on to board reports. Angie?
I don't have a whole lot to report. I was at the community meeting on the 25th, and I'm happy to hear about the app, because afterwards, during the meeting, community members got to speak up and ask questions, and I think that was kind of the best part of the meeting, people just to talk and stuff. That was really good, and I spoke with some people afterwards, and just some other ideas too. I mean, they were just talking, and kind of like this, the whole bullying thing is kind of a community has to kind of get together and work on that together, was one of the things that came out in that conversation. But another big thing was an app to be able to report things, so kind of excited that that's going to happen.
Learn some more about our new facilities we're working on. Last week was kind of busy. Monday, get to do the National Honor Society, which we saw about 60 plus new members come in, which was a lot of fun to see. That was as big a crowd as I'd seen in many years. Wednesday night, Neil will probably mention, but was an honor to see Zach and Nick sign their letters of intent. And then Thursday night was our football banquet. So it was nice to go see the kids get their awards and see the excitement for not only a new facility, but for football continuing in the future at Elberly.
I attended the community meeting on October 25th as well. I also attended the alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs meeting, and focused on sustainability of the program after the grant funding ends.
Attended a meeting, regular monthly meeting of the Business Education Committee of the Chamber of Commerce, and Lori has something to report that's relative to that, so I won't comment. It has to do with the daycare, which is a wonderful idea. And John Double is a member of that committee and updated the committee on the activities that he is involved in vocational training and the sort of thing that we witnessed here tonight with Lou Rich. Also attended twice, actually, because I'm legally deaf, the fall musical, which is wonderful. They always are. And it took me 2 nights to get all the lines. And they do a fantastic job, and it's really exciting to watch our students engage in good activities like that, and they just have a lot of fun doing it. And they're good at it.
I guess we'll move on to the teacher report.
But first of all, I want to say thank you for the fruit and vegetables that you guys sent to us last week. That was really nice. I asked other buildings for input, and I heard from Southwest. They were finishing up with conferences on the 1st and the 5th. They had good attendance, they reported. Lakeview reported that they are getting ready for a concert in December, and Merry Muffins in December as well. And that they were grateful for a third kindergarten to be added, and the transition went well, they said. So the rest of it's Hawthorne things, just because that's the people that report to me. Targeted Services is up and moving. We've got about 22 kindergartners in my program, and I know first grade is large. Second grade has enough to have a para, so they're at 20 or above. And third grade has between 15 and 20. So our numbers are good. We don't have upper grades at this point, just because I don't think there was staffing that would take that on. Tonight they're having an EL night at Hawthorne. The Success Coaches organized a parent meeting. It sounds really good. They're having a policeman come and speak, doing a question and answer thing with the EL families. The kids get to play. There's going to be snacks. There's Katie, our social worker, is going to be there to answer questions and give them guidance. There's somebody from Human Services, I believe, that will be there and answering questions. So they're really excited that if everybody comes that reported, there will be over 100 people there, including kids. So sounds really cool. We finished in October bully prevention in, I think, all of the elementary buildings. We did muffins in the morning, and Victor the Viking came and did a day with us. And the other thing I was going to report on is that we just did the teachers, ALEA sponsored the 3rd or 4th annual Gobble Wobble on Saturday. I volunteered at that. There were over 100 people that signed up for it. 50 actually came because of the weather, and a lot of good community involvement for donations, that kind of thing. So they raised, Dawn told me, let me see, $5,500. And that all goes to scholarships for students going into education at Albert Lee. So that's what I have.
Well, thank you very much. Very good.
I don't think so. A friend of mine that I walked with, she said it was not a good run. She did not have a good time. She had fun, but it was not a good time.
Okay, next we have curriculum and instruction. We have the World's Best Workforce and Achievement Integration Grant, Kathy Niebor and Mary Jo Norman.
So this is an annual report. It continues to change every time we come to present. The World's Best Workforce is now combined with the Achievement and Integration Grant, which Mary Jo will talk a little bit about. We met with the District Curriculum Committee last Thursday. It was about an hour and 10 minutes, but we've cut it down a lot since then. So here's the legislation. This is state mandated. These goals under legislation passed in 13-14. The top 5 items are all state mandated goals. So we, as you know, base our pathways to success around those goals. And then in 2017-18, to be implemented this fall for us to report, are 2 new goals: equitable access to excellent teachers. And that is actually data that is provided to us. So Ashley reports data through what's called the STAR report. That information is uploaded to MDE, and then they pull apart and disaggregate that data and report it back to us. And then, as we talked about a couple of months ago, comprehensive and targeted support schools through North Star reporting. We discussed that in September, so we'll talk a little bit about how that now will impact World's Best Workforce.
So annually, this is new this year to combine the World's Best Workforce and the Achievement and Integration Grant. And in Albert Lee, the two goals that we have are kindergarten readiness is goal 1, and goal 2 is closing the achievement gap in reading and math. And we'll report on that a little bit later. Just want to say, since Chris mentioned the EL night tonight at Hawthorne, that is funded out of the Achievement and Integration Grant. So part of the work we ask our success coaches to do is do outreach to all of our families. And so tonight's night was outreach to all our second language, third language parents to come in and support however we can. And a couple other things they were talking about was school safety and bullying, as well as attendance. And so a lot of community agencies are part of that event tonight. And then the Achievement Grant funds food for the event as well, so we can provide food while the families are there. Just another nice bonus for families to come, learn some more about schools, get feedback from them, and then have supper. So that's what's happening at Hawthorne tonight.
So these are the Pathways to Success goals, and we're going to report on these goals, and then as you'll see, as the data has changed over the last couple of years, some of the information we can provide looks a little different than in the past. So starting this year, the state has adopted statewide goals. So these are new. On the World's Best Workforce area column, those are the same goals that they've had in the past. They've reworded them a little bit, but basically the same goals. And for the first time, the state has set statewide goals. And these were talked about at Learning Team, District Curriculum Committee. Julie Eaton has been talking about them with the ALEA. So these are new, and you will see that in red, those statewide goals are looking at achievement rate of 90% with no student group below 85% by the year 2025. You'll see that for reading for third grade, so that is the new third grade literacy goal. Closing the achievement gap among all our student populations as they're disaggregated. College and career readiness has a new measurement, and that measurement is students in the 8th grade taking the MCA need to hit a math achievement rate of 90% with no student group below 85%. The graduation rate expectation is 90% with no student group falling below 85%. And if you think back to the North Star report, we have to prepare a comprehensive support plan because our high school and ALC have some categories that are not hitting 67%. So this really raises that bar by 2020. So that is 5 years earlier than the other goals. And then consistent attendance, which we've already shared this data with you. School-wide, consistent attendance right now is at 83.9%, with lots of categories in different schools achieving well close to that 95% rate. And that is also set for 2020. So this is new. This is a result of the federal ESSA legislation. So then what does that look like?
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
I've always been taught that goals are supposed to be SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, obtainable, and time-bound. So I see this as time-bound, but is it realistic?
I guess I can go back on. So that's certainly the question that came up at District Curriculum Committee. Several people asked that. Is this realistic? Well, the state has decided to set the bar this high. We're assuming because the feds under ESSA have come in and said this is how schools and states, if they want to achieve get federal dollars, this is where you'll set your goals. One of the questions that came up at DCC is there punishment for schools like there has been in the past under AYP? Right now, the consequences are for schools who don't write a plan. So right now, our job is, do you have a plan to move your students closer to these goals? And so As I said, we have a high school's comprehensive support plans, Halverson Elementary, a targeted plan. We have achievement and integration plans for our multilingual students as well as students at risk. And so MDE tells us their goal is to support schools, school systems, teachers, students, and not punish. So this is the information we have at this point. Is that realistic? It is the bar we are being asked to achieve for our students. And it comes at us mostly through the lens of equity for all students. We know at our high school, many of our student groups hit the 85, if not the 90%, but our LEP students and our special education students do not. And I'm presuming that the state is saying what you focus on will be where you will see achievement, and this is where we are at. So this is new. We found about this in September. So, good questions, though. So how do we compare? And we've looked at this a couple of different ways, and we tried to compare it. So in the middle is really our old goals, or our goals, I shouldn't say old, our current goals on the Pathways to Success. So our current goal is 80% of students on target third grade reading proficiency for math, or for reading and math. And you'll see we're at 48.1 and 60.7%. Closing the achievement gap is an interesting one. The state does provide us growth targets in reading across the district. We're at 67% in reading and 59% for math. And then we also have proficiency targets. What we know about growth targets is they tend to not be as meaningful as we thought due to standard errors of measurement. Learned about this last week. And so they are going to continue to provide those to school districts. They're called Z-scores, but they will no longer be used as a measure, and we will not get them disaggregated. So what we have this year is across the district growth scores, and we're assuming that's what we'll receive in the future. There's so we had individual targets for our 8th grade college and career readiness, and they didn't provide us the data this last year. So we know that we want 100% of our students preparing a 4-year plan. It's actually in statute. We know some students start it but don't finish it. We had 87% of our 9th graders last year work on our Naviance planning program. We've changed or added on to that program. Our high school counselors are hoping to get a higher percentage of our 8th graders in the program, so by 9th graders they have their 4-year plan laid out. As part of our pathways, we'll be able to, and our counselors have some training in a couple of weeks, how to put those pathways in the student planning program as they choose classes. They can also, our hope is, choose a pathway in the next couple of years and align courses. And then we can also see as a high school, where do we have gaps for those pathways through the Naviance program. So the state has decided, as I said, that this is going to be 8th grade proficiency in mathematics, and our 2018 spring scores were 41%. And then the graduation rate, our goal is 90%, and you can see as a district, all students 80.4%, the high school at 91.5%, and the ALC at 53%. And as I told you in September, every ALC in the state is on an improvement plan for graduation rates, as they seem to be below 67%. So that is how we compare now to what the new statewide goals are.
We keep throwing around terms that involve percentages and proficiency. Now, I'm assuming, forgive me for asking ridiculously simple questions, I'm assuming that the percentage refers to the percent of our students who actually achieve proficiency?
Yes,
Correct.
those are students who meet or exceed added together.
Right. All right.
Correct.
That's simple. Now, what instruments are in effect which measure proficiency?
Well, these are, they are using MCAs unless a school district wants to come up with something local control.
And that's a test that many of our students don't take.
At the 8th, 10th, and 11th grade, correct.
Right.
And we know that MCAs at the individual level are not as good as school-wide, so.
So for the ALC graduation rate, I don't know how to phrase my question. Is it, we're counted if they don't graduate in 4 years, right? But if they graduate in 5, we're still penalized. Am I correct in that?
They have a 4, 5, 6, and 7-year graduation rate, correct. And so the needs analysis for the ALC will be, so, all right, we know where we're at in 4 years. Where are we at in 7 years? And so you're penalized from the standpoint of you need to develop a plan to get more and more kids on track. But we know they have until age 21 to graduate.
But the goal for the state is 4-year cohort, 90%. Yeah, correct.
Correct.
What does the adjusted mean, 4-year adjusted cohort graduation?
So under ESSA, there's all kinds of things that you can click on to include and not include, and I was going to bring what those 4 things are, like if they're enrolled half a year, if whichever school they're enrolled at the longest. There's 4 things. So if a student was in Alden, say, for 3 years, came to us for 1 year and didn't graduate, they wouldn't count against Albert Lee. They would count against Alden. So they have these adjusted rates now.
So this is for the Achievement and Integration Grant. Goal 1 is kindergarten readiness. And the goal this year was to have all incoming kindergartners be K-ready by attending some type of preschool program, whether it be United Preschool, a preschool program here at Brookside, VPK, the Children's Center. And the results when we collected the data of all our incoming kindergartners this year was we did not reach the goal. We were close. But 87% of our incoming kindergartners this year attended a preschool experience, which we know having that preschool experience is great, and it gives them more success in their school career, so, as Chris Burnett can attest to. So that is the goal 1 for the Achievement Grant.
So this is brand new data. We were provided, as I said, Ashley uploads data via the STAR report, and the state scrubs that out. And basically, we have to report % of staff inexperienced in a school and as a district, and those are teachers with 3 or less years of experience. % of classes taught by an educator out of field. We have 4 categories where teachers might be out of field. One is our special education teachers. That's a hard field to hire in. Our career and tech ed teachers who are all licensed career and tech ed, but maybe teaching a class because there's so many licensures in that area. So I might have an ag teacher who's teaching a transportation know your car class, so they get a variance. All of our ALC teachers are on a variance, so they can teach the elective courses. And the 4th one skips my mind right now. Can't think of it. I'll think of it in a second. So we have some fairly low rates. We have to talk about what we're doing to ensure students, more students of color, more teachers who look like our students. And one of the things we've done this year is, I think we are at 7 teachers in the district now who would qualify in that category. That's up from 4 from the previous year. The other thing you'll notice is the percentage of staff without an advanced degree. So if I start at Halverson there, 42% without, that means over 50% do have advanced degrees. You'll also see that Halverson is in the highest poverty quartile in the state. and the highest minority quartile in the state.
So how do they define advanced degree staff?
Beyond a bachelor's degree, so anybody who has a master's degree or beyond. So that is new data for us. Just is. So what does our improvement planning look like? Some of the areas we've talked about already. We are working with Amy Young. I'm going to let Mary Jo talk a little bit about her with our EL multilingual learners.
Well, I just think we're reaching out and getting the support from MDE, outside consultants. The first one is Amy Young. She came and worked with our EL staff and principals a couple weeks ago, and absolutely everybody very much loved her, and we're bringing her back of really giving us some ideas on, have you done this, have you did this, what about this, just trying to improve our instruction and our practices. So she'll be coming back in January to work with our staff. We brought in a phonics trainer because the one thing we all know, and you'll hear it in the news a lot, is the research is there. Kids are hitting the third grade reading wall and struggling to advance because they just don't have a phonics background. But yet if you talk to our new teachers we hire, or even some of us veteran teachers, we didn't come out of a phonics world. So a new teacher even shared at one of our phonics training we did, I think was last year, Chris, where we were just asking, what do you have for phonics in college? And the new teacher said, well, they gave us this little book, said read it, and there'll be a test at the end of it. Well, that doesn't help kids, or I shouldn't call them kids, students become great phonics teachers, which especially you need to be in the primary grades. So that's one of our big improvements that we've made for this year. Did significant training this fall. We have the trainer coming in again. Actually, she's a former college professor, again, well received by staff, and she'll be here 4 days next week working in all our elementary buildings. And so it's just things like that. I don't know if you wanted to go through all of them or just highlight. So it's things like that as we talk about improvement planning. What can we do as a district to support our teachers, support our students, increase our instructional practices? If there's better ones out there we should be using. And working with other Big 9 schools and teaching and learning professionals across the state, and just everybody's talking of who has good practices out there that are working, and will you share? So there, maybe if anything, that's the plus side of improvement planning, is it really, really forces you to really dig in deep and move forward.
So the other area was EL. We had 2 teachers last year who were finishing their EL license. So those are our teachers that were not fully licensed. The other thing is we are working on standards review. Health and PE are in review and are poised to be implemented by 2021. So our health and PE teachers at the elementary are already looking at PE, and at the high school we have a big meeting tomorrow after school. Our arts implementation date has not been set, but the standards have been approved. I attended a meeting last week on the new science standards, and those may look significantly different from the standpoint of how we will meet those standards. And they've gone around the state, met with different regions. They're on stage 1 of the review. Jackie Cromwell Olson and I attended in Rochester last week, and she's attended quite a few, and she said these look very different in how they're laid out in a traditional science format versus the new layout. So they're asking for feedback. So those are the 3 areas that are in standards review, and our teachers will be spending some time looking at that. So, questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much. I enjoyed that report. Okay. Item 10.1 is a resolution establishing a combined polling place for the school district for the 2018 election. Lori.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Funk, this is really a technicality. The county auditor requested that our district update this resolution. And what's driving the change is that the city actually made a change in the polling location at Brookside School. They added a new precinct. Ward 1 Precinct 2 was actually added. And so since the city added that, we therefore need to update ours. And so both the resolution for the 2018 and 2019 reflects this update. Just need them both formally approved.
Okay, any questions? If none, I'll entertain them.
When I was reading through this, maybe I read it totally wrong, but my impression was we were combining polling places, but we're not. They're the same as they normally are on a normal election year, statewide election year.
So this resolution here is regarding special elections. So like the election we had for the school board, whenever we have a general election, such as the school board election, that is a separate designation as far as the polling locations used for the general election is what we use. But when we hold a special election, that's where we establish our own polling locations. Now we do, you may recall, we aligned our polling locations that are in the city boundaries to align with what the city is using, just so that the voters wouldn't be confused. So for example, when we had our special election last spring, we had updated this list to align with how the city's polling locations were. So that's what this resolution is in regard to if we have a special election.
So we're not making any changes different than what we did in our last special election.
Like I said, the one change is Ward 1 Precinct 2 is added to Brookside School, and that's only because the city created that new precinct. Okay. The location isn't changing. They actually moved, if I understand it, there wasn't very many people, but they just created a new Ward 1 Precinct 2, and that would align with, like we have Ward 1 Precinct 1, and now Ward 1 Precinct 2 will both be the polling location at Brookside School.
So everything remains the same. We're not combining anything.
No, we're not
except for that
combining
one.
anything.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just making sure we're not disenfranchising voters.
No. We're aligning it to match what the city's doing.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And are they going to be having the precinct 2 again next time, or was that just for this year?
That remains to be seen. My understanding is that this Ward 1 Precinct 2 will continue to exist, but there is another change on the horizon. They noted that at Halverson's Elementary School, for example, there is the Albert Lea Township Precincts 1 and 2 have been listed at Halverson School, and sometime in the future that Albert Lea Township Precinct 2 will probably go away, but right now there's, as I understand it, a couple people still in that particular location. Pat Martinson did indicate that there may yet be yet another change coming, but until they notify me of what that is, this is what we have for now.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the resolution to establish a combined polling place for the school district not held statewide for 2018 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And then we have 10.2, which is for 2019. I'd entertain a motion for that. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the resolution for 2019 on the combined polling places signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have the high school gym HVAC and the swim locker room renovation bids. Lori.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Funk, for your consideration is approval of the low bid, Wagner Construction, approving the bid at $100,000, excuse me. We had 8 bids received, and this is for the high school HVAC upgrade and locker room build-out. We do have Steve here and also Todd Wenzel from our construction manager here if there are any particular questions on the project. But this is the best bid, and it's a very favorable bid.
What had we estimated?
That, I don't have, maybe Todd can address that. I don't have that right with me.
We had an original estimate of around $750,000. So that came in very good.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion then. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the bid for the gym HVAC and the swim locker room signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to 10.4, district daycare options. Lori.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Funk, we have been putting some analysis to the concept of offering a daycare program for that would be run by the school district, that would be run in community ed. The MDE does allow for such an arrangement. Would, like I said, be running through community ed. The focus here is that we would be offering it to give priority to our employees that need daycare for their children. We're looking at, based on feedback survey that was conducted to see what interest there would be from our staff, that reflected 2 infant rooms, 2 toddler rooms, and a preschool room. And the concept we're looking at is that it would align with the elementary school calendar. So that would be 186 days where children would be served through the daycare. And as far as staff working at the daycare, it would be 190 days because of the staff training that's required. We did look in the scenario that we did using information, kind of market pricing for the fees that the parents or the staff would pay for their children to attend the daycare, similar to the market price, maybe slightly less. As far as wages for the employee, we're trying to use kind of a market analysis there too. So the good news is with analyzing that, like for example, the infant room, slots for an infant room would be 8 infants, and the slots for a toddler is 14. And for preschool, it is 20, I believe. The good news is based on this analysis, with the rates we're using, it is basically very break even. What we need to add in our analysis yet is an estimate of supplies. But right now, we show a gain in the analysis, so it means it would be slightly more better than break even. I think with putting supplies in there, it would be at break even. This concept is with the assumption that we would utilize space here at Brookside School. It would have to be on the main level due to regulations. So that makes it I guess you could say, cheaper for the district because you don't have that overhead costs of leasing a facility and that kind of thing. But I am very encouraged that the numbers come out this favorable because the infant rooms, you will lose money on those rooms. Toddler rooms, you kind of break even, and offering the preschool component is what helps the whole program break even, just due to the required staffing levels. As you can imagine, for the infant, it requires higher staff to child ratio. So that's what we've been researching. If the board is supportive of this concept, we would need your blessing to move ahead soon, because for licensing, it can take up to 3 to 6 months to jump through all the hoops of the licensing process. The good news is, like I said, we surveyed the staff, and the interest would fill these slots. And the comments Jenny Hansen was receiving through that survey process is, how soon can this open? There is a great demand, and I know we've heard through the community that community-wide there is a great demand for daycare. And so it does help fill a need. Now, if we had open slots, even with offering for our staff, then of course, then it would be open to the general public as well. Of course, we need to fill our slots. But the intent here is that we would provide this as support for our own employees that needs daycare. Any questions?
I have a question regarding other school districts. Is this common throughout the state? Do we have any examples?
It's not super common, but there are other districts. Nearest district here is Blue Earth. When I worked at Blue Earth over 20 years ago, that's when we got that started, and it is still a successful program. And daycare is not a problem in Blue Earth because of their daycare program. They're basically filling the need in the community. Montevideo, I believe, was the other school district that Jenny went to visit.
It is, and so I had a chance to meet with the Montevideo superintendent last week. And the interesting thing related to what Mary Jo was talking about tonight, he said, A, there's a waiting list to get into their programs, and B, 90% of their students who enter kindergarten receive some sort of touch, whether it's through the daycare or through preschool, from their school district prior to getting into kindergarten, which is, I think, a real positive for everybody involved. The other thing, and Neil heard this when we were out in Hayward a month or so ago with Congressman Walz's staff, this daycare issue, they were telling us, is a significant issue throughout southern Minnesota. And I think just from hearing in town, I believe the Children's Center has a waiting list of like 250 children trying to get in. And so when we're looking at doing retention things for our staff, I think that this is a great opportunity for us here to do something. And if we can do it at a break even, as Lori's talking about, I think it's a win for taking care of our people.
So retention of our staff would be the main reason for moving ahead with this?
It would definitely be a primary reason, and then I think also once kids get into our system and they have a positive experience, we will, I think, see greater numbers in our voluntary pre-K and our community education programs.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not a question, it's a comment. I've been an advocate of this for over a year now. For several reasons. It would be a wonderful feature that we could provide that would attract teachers and other staff to our district and retain staff. It'd be an opportunity for young children to have daycare in this school setting, and it'd be a nice transition into their K-12 programs. It would be, again, vocational education is kind of another favorite topic of mine, and I can see some opportunity for students that we might have who are interested in daycare being able to help out in this program and get on-the-job training.
And actually, I do believe Jenny mentioned in visiting with one of the districts, it might have been Montevideo, I'm not exactly sure, but that exact concept was something that was used sometimes. As you can imagine, due to the hours of operation, we will have different shifts. And so, in fact, it would take 26 staff members to cover the shifts. They would be less than 30 hours a week in cumulative, but that type of support, I believe, is used often in the daycares if it works.
I did have a question. Was there any consideration of doing like a latchkey for before or after school for those students that are in school, but not really ready to go home and take care of themselves yet?
That is not anything that we analyze in this particular model. So I understand that we kind of have a cooperation with the Y for some after-school programming, so the discussion was not to compete with that. So this study just focused on, the preschool
And
age.
is there actually room here? It's so busy right now, so,
Yeah.
right?
There would be.
Okay.
We'd have to move things around.
Piggybacking on that latchkey question for a second, the Y does a tremendously great job with the after-school program. My son was involved in that. But there is no morning thing available. And I've heard from many parents, and I had problems myself finding something for my child in the morning. So just,
Okay.
I guess a heads up on that, if the Y wanted to do something or if this district wanted to do something. But currently, there's nothing in the morning. The Y program, phenomenal job for after school. And then when you said it'll follow the elementary schedule, is there any thought into like staff development days and things like that? You know, if a staff member is counting on this and then they have their staff development days and like, oh no, what am I gonna do with my child today?
Right, and so that's when I say the elementary schedule would be like for an elementary teacher,
It's 186 days.
186.
Okay.
So it's our
Oh, right,
contractual days, and then the staff would work, I think, 190 for their days, 4 extra days of education for the providers. But
Okay.
it's what our calendar days are, is the days that the intent would be to have daycare provided.
Okay. And then when you said, it'll take a while to get the licensure in place, so do you plan to start soon as it's in place or waiting till next school year?
Our hope is that, or our target goal is so that it would be open for that back-to-school day for the staff.
Okay.
That's our goal, yep. So, good.
So then if you're talking, you mentioned 26 employees, would that be an additional bargaining unit then to the school district?
It would be a casual employee group. It would fall under the umbrella of community ed employees. We have basically pay rates for community ed staff, and so it would fall under that umbrella.
Like a Schedule C, but it's a community ed
Right,
type deal.
type of thing, yep.
Any other questions or comments? This is just for our information at this point. So allows us to get more feedback, but I think there's a lot of positive things to look at there. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.